Okay, here we go again. Thank you for coming back for the last stretch. I'm going to gain a couple minutes by calling your attention and thanking to the team of live sketching. You've seen a desk back there with a few, I'm going to call you artists. They're live sketching all the presentations, all the speakers, highlighting the hot topics they've been covering. And we are actually hanging on all the live sketches that they're doing out there. We will be sharing with all the speakers and guests and participants all the images later. Thanks, live sketching, for being part of the event, for your work. Secondly, I'm going to thank again Rebi's Consulting for bringing the sentimental analysis platform to the conference. And I recall hashtag Insights 2019 for all of you who tweet. We're going to go for the final stretch now. We have 5 different sessions by 5 different event sponsors, to which I thank again for being part of the event, partnering and sponsoring the event. We're going to have Altran with a customer, a use case, beautiful. Thank you, EDP, as well, for teaming up with us. We're going to have SASH, we're going to have Deloitte, we're going to have IBM Softinsa, and we are going to have Expand IT. So, final stretch, we're going to be finishing, I would say, 15 to 20 minutes after hour. If all goes well, I apologize for the delay. I'm sure it's going to be worth it. We're going to be looking at a lot of use cases, so bringing AI and data science down to earth, how these guys are applying it. So, get to the chase. I'll call you up on stage. Jorge Neves from Altran, and his customer, Jorge Simo from EDP.
Thank you.
Utility firm. Most of you know it, of course. You go. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Guilherme, thank you so much for the warm introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We're very pleased to be here to tell you a story. Well, a real story. And it's so real that actually the story itself is in the stage with us today. So, Jorge, thank you so much for accepting the challenge. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And with no further ado, let's start to hear it. But before that, I have to take you back with me a long, long way back in time. Well, analytics is not 13.8 billion years old as the universe, but it had been inferred that first analytics had been used when statistical models had been used building the pyramids 4,500 years ago in the Egyptians. Well, some people said it were aliens, but let's stick with Egyptians so far because it's a real story. So the first business analytics use case backdates as the 19th century when Frederick Taylor initiated the time management exercises, and later on had been hired as a consultant by Henry Ford to help him improving the productivity in the assembly lines. Well, since after that, actually, we had been seeing an exponential boost of analytics leading to the big bang that we're living in. And which is amazing because it unleashed a lot of opportunities and use cases that we've seen today, but posing a tough challenge to organizations, clients, and suppliers. So one of those is how to cope with this turmoil world that we're living in. So, Jorge, I'm going to ask you a question. How EDP is tackling this problem, and what is this digital factory concept of yours?
Mm-hmm. So, thank you, João. Well, digital transformation is, first of all, about people. There's no digital transformation without organizational transformation, and without that starts with people, right? So, I'm the head of the Digital Factory, and this is a structure that was created about a year and a half ago by EDP to respond to some very specific challenges, mainly about reducing the time to market of our products, of our digital products. So, but again, as I said, no transformation, no digital transformation exists without process transformation. So the Digital Factory started with an introspection about our processes, our internal processes, and a resolution on how could we optimize them. And obviously, we had to shrink the whole procurement time, the whole ideation time for challenges, selection of a partner, so that onboarding of new projects would be as fast as possible, so we could dedicate time to actually solving the problem and going to market with it. So that was the first challenge, changing our processes. Our areas of focus at the Digital Factory are about nine technological areas with two overarching areas. Most of what we do has a continuous thread of design thinking, and we apply agile framework whenever possible. The rest of the technologies that we tackle are displayed here, and one of them, and one very important, is advanced analytics and big data. We also, again, focusing on humans, we also promote the adoption of these technologies by creating what we call virtual communities. These are, maybe we could call them guilds or something like that, more, sexier, like Spotify. But we went with digital communities. They're places for people to exchange ideas and to share knowledge about specific tech topics. We have 6 going so far. One of them is specifically dedicated to big data and analytics, and we have a very significant number of EDP employees signed up for that, and very active community. Some of the members are actually here today. I can see a few in the audience. And then to promote agility and to be really fast, we need to go with a relatively small set of tools. We've chosen these tools. These are our preferred tools. It doesn't mean that we only use these, but maybe 80% of our projects are done with these tools. So regarding analytics, we are still a very heavy SaaS house, although we've been doing more and more Python programming, especially in the Microsoft Azure stack. We've recently signed a very significant deal with Microsoft to be our main cloud provider, and hence we are moving very fast towards that. Also, in terms of big data and some of the analytics we do it on the Cloudera stack, the old Hadoops and Sparks and whatnot. And again, I mean, agility and time to market cannot supersede some very basic, very key digital principles. These are commandments. And nothing that we do can go to market, can go out of the door without being vetted by security. We take security and privacy very, very seriously. So our security operations center is involved since the very beginning of our projects. Another of our commandments is cloud first. We are aimed at being a cloud company, having our operations in the cloud as fast as possible, and working very hard towards that. I mentioned already as well doing agile and DevOps whenever applicable. Again, here it's not one size fits all. We do not do all of our projects in an agile way still, nor we will do in the future. There's always, you know, an outlier where applying agile simply doesn't make sense, and we still do some of our projects in waterfall methodologies. Finally, we are building a set of very powerful APIs. We are invested into building an API and microservice based architecture, and we obviously in the Digital Factory are working very closely with our friends at Architecture to do this. So let me put some numbers on this. The Digital Factory basically produces MVPs, basically produces minimum viable products. This is the version 1.0 of a new digital product. We aim at doing 100 per year. So we're launching 25 new projects every quarter. So far, we've launched 105 since more or less mid last year, and we've closed 60. So I'm a little bit behind my KPI on delivering 100. I still have 40 to go this year. So our rate of failure, of course, you know, when you launch an operation like this, you expect some rate of failure, and we're actually a little below what was our initial expectation. We're at about 18%, which is not too high. Again. The key thing here is if it's going to fail, we need to fail fast, not spend a lot of money on it, and that's what we've been aiming to do. And this is the Digital Factory in a nutshell, very, very fast.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Very enlightening. Well, I'm sure that almost all of you had seen this. This is basically Gartner's Analytic Value Escalator. I'm going to use this slide for two reasons. Because first, I'm going to challenge it. I'm not a very big fan of it. And second, because it helped me out in the quiz in the next slide. Okay? But first, just a quick overview. So Gartner just put it as a linear function, the four pillars of types of analytics. So descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive, as a linear function between difficulty and value. And basically, when you look at it, we kind of feel a bit depressed. Sorry, depressed because I pressed it wrong, and depressed as well because we see value almost here. So we are not very keen to do descriptive and diagnostic because it doesn't have much value. So we want to do sexy things. So sometimes when I'm speaking with clients they tend to, okay, what can I do in prescriptive or predictive? And I think the question shouldn't be like that. But going through the quiz, okay, I'm going to ask you a simple question. Two options, okay? I need your assistance, hands in the air. So basically, if more than 50% of your current projects are in predictive and prescriptive, I would like you to raise your hand now. More than 50, predictive and prescriptive. Okay, 3, 4, 5. I'm not very good at counting, but okay, 5. Okay, but in the opposition, if more than 50% of your projects are descriptive and diagnostic, put your hands in the air, please. All right, a few more, maybe 10. So I'll say that it's 2-1 ratio. So we were a bit depressed when you look at the graphic there. But when you see this graphic, this is a different approach from O'Reilly, the same thing. But O'Reilly says, listen, this is not a linear function. This is more like an exponential saturated curve. We are less depressed because we're doing diagnostic and retrospective about the past. And so I think the question that companies have to ask is, what actually do I have to solve? And what can I solve faster with less cost? Okay, so basically, yes, descriptive. And descriptive and real-time descriptive is even more important for operations. We know something for sure. Operations, mission-critical service cannot stop. They have to be running 24/7. And yeah, we can make systems resilient, but we know something for fact. Something that exists eventually will cease to exist, or will break or crash. And we are not very good with superpowers, are we? So yeah, we have to make sophisticated algorithms to try to detect anomalies when they happened and help in the root cause analysis and even predict. So, Jorge, again, I'm going to ask you a question. What type of analytical challenge do you have at the moment that you're tackling?
Well, it would probably take us the whole afternoon if I went through all the challenges that we have right now. We have a mix of descriptive analytics and predictive analytics. We actually target 3 pillars in our organization. Clients, or basically customers, is everything that has to do with our retail, with our customer-facing presence. Is one pillar. The other is assets and operations, where we try to optimize our operations, that being in generation or distribution or renewables. And also enterprise, which is basically inward looking at our processes, looking at our people, and trying to make their lives better. The 3 examples of use cases that I bring you here today are actually oriented to operations, basically. And the first one is a project we did with our friends at Accenture. I saw them here today. It's a predictive model for the hydro basins in some of our dams, specifically Baixo Sabor and Foz Tua, two dams in the north of the country, where we built a predictive model based on mostly operational variables and meteorological variables to predict the level of the hydro basin. Another use case, more recent one, this is not finished yet, is a use case we're tackling with IBM, and this is trying to predict the growth of trees near our power lines. So as you know, having trees near power lines is a risk. Forest fires is one of the possible consequences. We take this very seriously. We are using LiDAR data, basically captured by helicopter, together with satellite imagery to, in a first step, identify the rate of growth of vegetation near our power lines. So in this image here, you can see the red areas are where the fastest growing trees are, and the green areas are where the slower trees growing are. Obviously, eucalyptus is a very, very high-risk species. We are, and it can be considered a fast-growth tree. So we're specifically targeting that species first. Right now, we can only classify in these 3 basic classifiers by rate of growth. Our aim is in the future to actually identify the species of each tree or each group of trees near the power lines, so that we can not only know that we need to go and maybe trim the tree, but we know its rate of growth, so we know when to go there and trim the tree. It's a big change in paradigm for our operations. And finally, a project we're doing with our friends at Tesla, situational awareness. I mean, the screen you see, there is a SCADA system. SCADA systems are operational systems that fire off a number of alarms, a number of variables whenever something occurs. For example, in our distribution network. When we have a storm, for example, or when we have somehow disrupted operation, these systems can easily fire off thousands of alarms, thousands of lines like those per minute. And for any operator facing a screen like that, it's simply unintelligible. I mean, for a human, you can simply take decisions based on that. So what we're doing is we're making sense of these groups of alarms and trying to group them into significant information, significant insights. So maybe a group of alarms like this corresponds to, a power transformer blowing up somewhere, let's say. So what we're doing is applying that logic, applying those models to to the streaming data that comes from the SCADA system to make sense of it all and have some awareness about what's going on in our network. So very rapidly, 3 use cases. I could be here all day. We have many more. So please grab me and talk to me if you're curious. João.
Jorge. Very interesting. Well, we're running against time. Okay, Guilherme, I hope you're not here. I hope not. So we saw 3 different use cases. We saw computer vision, we saw predictive, and real-time analytics. Shall we use the same common architecture for tackling both use cases? What about real and batch use cases? How we tackle them? Should we use cloud, hybrid, on-prem? So I think this is a lot of questions that you have in your mind at the moment, and the answer is there is no silver bullet. Every single problem has a unique solution. So this slide here, I'm sure that you all seen this, but maybe not in the evolution. So basically what this shows is the number of products or frameworks that exist in the analytics landscape. So we can see that in 2011 was 150, and now it's more than 7,000. 7,000, yeah, exactly. So this puts a lot of strength in the engineers when defining the architecture. Again, shall we define the architecture first, or start by the use cases and then squeezing in the architecture for coping those use cases? So I think there are questions for us to answer. Cloud. This is very quickly an output from a survey from TDWI and Talent last year that asked 200 companies where do they think that their data lakes, data warehouses will be in the next 5 years. And I think very, not surprisingly, only 5% of the companies said that they will put their big data infrastructure on-prem. 5%. I think it's the opposition now, 5% in the cloud. Okay, there is a very mixture, hybrid on-prem and cloud, public cloud, multiple cloud, and blah, blah, blah. But okay, so this is for you to think as well. Okay, huge investment in on-prem, it might turn out to be a bad investment or not, okay? So again, every problem has a unique solution. So agility, we couldn't do this MVP in 3 months if you had to buy hardware, install the hardware, configure, and then put in the algorithm. So cloud, I think, is very agile for that. And as well, when you're not sure if the output that you're trying to achieve has value, it's very good as well. I will not cover those in details, okay? Very briefly, because I would like to describe as well what we did so you can use it. So we had sort of a real-time and batch situation here. We use a Kappa interpretation for those who knows what I'm speaking of. So we have a hot path, alarms coming in, and then a cold path. So alarms need to be enriched with information to make it more concise to the operators. So the first thing that we have to do is putting those metadata, those dictionaries, in the blob storage, which is a sort of file system storage, manually or automated through Data Factory. We used Azure, as Jorge mentioned. We programmed streaming analytics, which is an in-memory complex event processor that every single time that a file is there, he picks up automatically with no need for human coding. And then the fun part comes, so alarms coming into Event Hub, which is sort of a Kafka, then puts in streaming analytics, and all the alarms are in memory from this period of time. So it does this normalization, filtering, correlation, enrichment, and then some analytical stuff, like counting the number of alarms, flapping, and as well counting how long was alarm raised. And all of the structure insights are going to be put in Power BI, so it can be read in near real time by the operators. At the same time, we dump all of this information in a data lake that can be then consulted in historical and as well for predictive and prescriptive algorithms. Okay? There is a few caveats with this as well. No solution is perfect. Watch out if you're going to do real time with Power BI. There is a few caveats on that. And streaming analytics is very good, but if you go crazy with huge algorithms, you might use Databricks or some other kind of architecture. Well, I'll not go to the detail. Long story short, I think Jorge already mentioned what is the output of that. So passion led us here, passion to solve complex problems. But this is just one customer story that we could tell. We have more in Tecel Altran Group, more than 1,000 customer stories that we're very happy to share with you. So last slide, 30 seconds. I see Guilherme looking at me with this wasp face. Just bear with me a second. So I would like you to think for a few seconds, how do you envision the future? Will AI be a good or a bad thing? Will AI replace or will augment us? Well, my personal opinion is definitely AI will be fundamental for business evolution, no doubts about it, and no doubts about it as well that a lot of jobs as we know them today will cease to exist. Okay, but AI will be the biggest driver in job creation that the world had seen so far, no doubt about it. Now, technology can be a good or a bad thing. We heard Deborah speaking about today about ethics and stuff, and I do think it's our social and ethical responsibility as AI practitioners, leaders, enthusiastic students to make sure that we don't amplify our human bias in the algorithms, and more important and above all, to make human-like AI with compassion, empathy, and love. As once Abraham Lincoln said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. That's what the SL Altran Group is trying to do. A trustful and a transparent and good AI for everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jorge. Hope to see you.
Thank you.